Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. Now, based on reports from early May 2026, Nigeria recorded 281,500 leaked user accounts in the first quarter, ranking the country 34th globally in data breaches. Now, this surge represents an 18% increase in email breaches compared to the last quarter of 2025. The incident is linked to sophisticated cybercrime techniques, including info-stealer malware, phishing, and ransomware. Tonight on NTA Tuesday Live, we'll be focusing on the leaked email accounts, the implications and concerns. But before we go into the conversation, let's get to see this report put together by correspondent Jonathan Omajali.
I have some cases that you find out as some friend of mine, to the extent that they have to arrest them, thinking that they are the one operating the email.
It happened to me one time. A colleague came to me for an assistance, and I assist that colleague. The next thing I started seeing deduction in my salary.
Voices of Nigerians and victims of the sinister side of the cyber world. The digital age has opened new frontiers of opportunity for John and Joseph. Messages no longer have to be sent through the post office, and transactions can now be carried out without queuing for several hours in banking halls. But beneath the convenience of interconnected systems lies a growing vulnerability threatening nations, institutions, and individuals alike. Nigeria's emergence among countries with rising cases of leaked email accounts has once again drawn attention to the fragile state of global cybersecurity.
The compromised email could be government emails, could be individuals, could be from fintech, could be from telecoms, could be from SME, could be from hospitals, and could be from startup.
With over 281,500 compromised accounts recorded within the first quarter of 2026, experts fear the consequences may extend beyond individual privacy breaches to economic sabotage, identity theft, financial fraud, and coordinated cyber attacks on critical sectors.
Most financial institutions have digital platforms now, and people have accounts that they transact different kind of commercial transactions online. Banking, the banking sector, you have different institutions that you do banking online, and when these credentials are being stolen, a huge amount of money will be stolen and taken out of the country, and that affects our digital economy.
The short-term implication talks about the individual losing money, and long-term implication talking about country losing our digital reputation. Another long-term implication is that we stand a chance of losing our national infrastructure to hackers who could hold the entire country at ransom.
So we need to create more awareness of cybersecurity threats, cyber crimes all around the world. And I think NIDA is doing a pretty good job, but I think we need to intensify the awareness.
Poor knowledge of cybersecurity, brain drain within the cybersecurity landscape, the absence of comprehensive cybersecurity policies at different levels, inadequate dark web monitoring, and weak endpoint protection infrastructure among the areas experts say require urgent attention.
Right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's introduce our guests. We'd like to welcome to this program Dr. Ayo Bakari is Assistant Director, Cybersecurity Department of the National Information Technology Development Agency, NIDA. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Also here tonight is Moses Gabriel Omolai, Cybersecurity Professional. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Joining us tonight also is Ruth Sambok, Digital Rights Advocate. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And we also have here tonight Joseph Gideon Ikojo, a cybersecurity expert. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And joining us via Zoom from Côte d'Ivoire is Babatunde Bamigboye, Esquire, Head Legal Enforcement and Regulations Department, Nigeria Data Protection Commission, NDPC. Thanks for being with us.
It is my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Well, as is the nature of this program, at some point in time we go interactive, but when it's that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedure. For now, let's go into the details of tonight's program, the implications and the concerns over leaked emails. And with our guests, let's start off. A good place to start off is the huge numbers of breaches that were recorded in the first quarter of this year, which is higher than what happened in the last quarter of 2025. Is this some kind of progression in hacking and, breaches of accounts? In other words, are we expecting that as time goes on, we'll see increased activities by hackers and those who breach mails?
Thank you very much, Mr. Cyril, for that amazing question. I think it's very important, to know that the current leaks that we're experiencing, yes, it may be concerning, but it shouldn't really be a cause for alarm. And why am I saying this? This shows that Nigeria is really advancing with its digital transformation. Nigeria is advancing, with its digital economy. It shows that we are being noticed, as in globally, as far as our digital transformation is concerned. The whole world, it's actually noticing Nigeria's digital as a footprint. So this creates a paradox. As we advance, with our digital transformation, we should also expect in the same breath series of cyber attacks, which also includes, email leaks. And why I say that this is not that alarming is because if you juxtapose this, within the same as a report, if you juxtapose this, with the email leaks, experienced, by United States within the same as in quarter, a country of about 342 million, you realize that they experience about 61 million leaks within the first as in quarter. The same also goes for, as in the UK, with about a population of about 69.2 million, which is above a third of Nigeria's population. You realize that within the same quarter, they also experienced data leaks or email leaks of, about 4.4 million. So if you juxtapose what Nigeria experienced, within the first quarter, with what has been experienced by countries within the global north, you will see that, yes, I don't want to downplay it, but you see that it's still marginal within the grand scheme of us and things. But of course, it's concerning, and that shows that as we're advancing with digital as a transformation, we should also continuously improve our cybersecurity measures at the national level. Thank you.
Well, but then we're considered as one of the fastest developing digital, countries in the world. And so, yes, we might say, looking at this against the other countries mentioned here, we might not be too alarmed. But the more we develop, the more the risks and the chances of being noticed and the attempts being made. Let's hear you.
Okay, so great thing that we're growing that fast. However, with that kind of pace, then there's more responsibility. Now, the responsibility starts from not being reactive, but being proactive. So, first of all, let's get something straight that cybersecurity or cybersecurity breaches, it's like poverty. It can never be eradicated, but can be reduced to the barest minimum. So, how do you reduce to the barest minimum? It starts from the basics, awareness. Where there's proper awareness from every level, that is from oblivious users to mid-level users, and then to experts. Because if you're not aware of the climb, the digital climb, how would you even protect yourself? So I think in one of the responsibilities we have as a country is to be proactive, and I think it starts with proper awareness at every level. Even as little as starting cybersecurity awareness clubs in secondary schools, in primary schools, talking about links, not clicking on links you shouldn't, and all of that, because we see that one of the biggest breaches is what we call the business email compromise. So that would always be a point of attack. Business is increasing, the digital climate is increasing, so we need to do a lot with awareness at every level.
And we're churning out smarter individuals by the day, younger too, for that matter. And back in my day, we would not be as savvy as today's people are with this technology. But let's hear your opening comments, Ruth Sambo.
Okay, so I agree with everything that they have shared. Truly, we are a growing economy, and which also means this is such a big concern, because if we're trying to build our digital economy, it means that this is going to also affect the citizens, right, in a negative way. It's a ripple effect, because if we have this number of people having their emails compromised, it means that they are vulnerable to bank frauds, their social media, and then it makes people scared to adopt technology. Already we hear people saying, if it's online, don't bother, there are so many risks, there are scammers, etc. So if we have this number, it's also, yet like when you juxtapose it with the numbers in the US and the UK, it's not much, but then we can't compare our digital economy with advanced countries like that. It has a negative impact, especially for the citizens, because they're always at the receiving end.
Yeah, so that's it. More people are likely to say, look, if it's online, then be wary. Maybe if you try the first time, you get hacked. I've known people who have decided they're just going to keep all this at arm's length and not go the way. Well, let's come to Joseph Gideon Ikojo, the cybersecurity expert. And the first thing here is, do we have the tools to really be ahead? Because people who do this, they are devising new and faster methods.
Well, thank you very much for that question. I believe we do have the tools, but I also believe these tools are limited to a selected few. You talk about the law enforcement, including the police, the EFCC, the NFIU, the ICPC, and even some part of the police. There's some part of the law enforcement that has been integrated with the police, like the Interpol. They have these tools. But a lot of companies or organizations in Nigeria do not have these tools. And this also includes government organizations, not just private organizations, but governance organizations and institutions. They do not have these tools. Now, I wouldn't blame them for not having these tools. When you speak of cybersecurity, what the layman thinks, first of all, is it's a very big thing that is only meant for the techies. But it's not like that. Cybersecurity is a huge component of our well-being as Nigerians and as individuals. Everybody must be included in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity doesn't just have to do with the rocket science of hacking, doing your active and passive reconnaissance and what have you. It goes beyond that. The awareness, as he said, is also cybersecurity. But a lot of organizations do not notice. And personally, I've been privileged to be in the UK for some years, and I can tell you their practice. Organizations do not necessarily have to, engage in practical aspect of cybersecurity. These jobs, it's sourced out to other organizations. And that's where the whole concept of cybersecurity insurance comes in, whereby organizations shift responsibility, the risk, the financial implication of cybersecurity breaches or cybercrime, and also the legal costs attached to it. And also these organizations attach their experts, cybersecurity experts, into different organizations who are, bought into their cybersecurity insurances and engage that there is fast incident response to cybersecurity incidents. Because these cybersecurity insurance organizations, they are present in different organizations. Doesn't mean cybercrime will not take place, but it ensures that they mitigate the risk involved. It ensures that they take care of the legal and repercussions due to breaches that may affect users or may affect customers, and they also ensure that they also take care of the financial costs. I believe if Nigerian organizations or the government put in place policies that can ensure that this is mandatory for organizations, I feel we can mitigate cybersecurity, cybercrime to its bearable minimum.
All right, thank you very much. Well, now let's go on to the regulator, Babatunde Bamgbui, who is head legal enforcement and regulations department of the NDPC, that's the Nigeria Data Protection Commission. And what do you make of these breaches?
All right, thank you very much. We are happy we are having this conversation at this point because it is another way of creating awareness. That is just the first lesson we must take from this. But first, let me say that we are cautious about the statistics because where this data is coming from, of course, it's not a question of whether you want to deny or you want to affirm. But for us as regulators, we are not just looking at the statistics, who is number one, who is number two. We want to see the import so as to guide our policy direction. And what we are looking at in all of this, first is why the leaks. If we understand what is driving, where is it trending upwards or backwards, we may be able to determine whether even 5,000 are many leaks already, or whether 280,000 plus is just a small number. So we are looking at it, what is driving it. I think from our assessments generally, the leaks largely could be attributed to the users, the owners of accounts. What is their level of awareness before we even get to the platforms? Generally, the platforms provide robust framework. But when you see a situation where people have accounts and then the necessary technical and organizational measures to protect the accounts from becoming taken over or hacked by threat actors in the cyberspace, when you have a situation where you don't have people putting in place these appropriate measures, then it is concerning. That is where the real issue is. We have situations where somebody may just even you could take your phone to another person to repair without necessarily doing the right thing or taking measures to protect your personal information. So for us as regulators, we are already looking at how we can engage. We're already engaging with them anyway, but how we can come up with a framework on privacy by design and by default. And what do we mean by that? That when you, for instance, want to allow somebody to use your platform, maybe for the purpose of operating email, then are there authentication methods you can put in place that goes beyond the traditional framework, such that if I should lose my account immediately, is there a way by which, without so much hassles, I can get it blocked? You could have a situation where another person takes over another email account, and it's even difficult for the owner of the account to get back his account because of the hassles or the protocols around it. And that is why the issues around platform owners being able to have offices in Nigeria, being able to have the right systems in place in Nigeria to be able to redress these issues. Then, of course, some of these platforms, by the time you are signing on, you are not looking at the type of operations they have in place, or the type of protection that they have in place to protect you in the event of a breach. So there is important for the platforms as well. What we have mandated is you go beyond just putting some privacy policy and remedial platforms or pathways in some vague letter somewhere. There is a need. I don't know if anybody has opened a public mail, for instance, and then is able to see, is able to actually listen to audio or listen to some, watch some audiovisual material relating to how to protect their privacy online. It is a multi or cross-sectoral approach. We are happy we have collaboration with the Nigeria Police Force, and of course, NIDA is our sister agency that we are working with, and as well as other regulators out there. So we are putting all of these measures together to ensure that first the data subjects are aware of what they need to do at first. That's the first line of defense. And again, that the platform providers, they also have the opportunity, the exercise what you call duty of care by bringing appropriate notices to the data subjects, and of course putting in place access control measures such as multi-factor authentication. So we believe that with a number of these organizational and technical measures put together, the incidents may be trending back. That doesn't mean you would have zero leaks, as it were, but the impact will be less disastrous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comprehensive explanation there. And so what it does seem from what he's said, that quite a number of people are not aware of the implications. And this is one thing we need to really talk about. Let's start from institutions before we go down to the individuals. What are the risks? You set up an email. And from what he's saying, you just set up, and you might not necessarily go through what we call the fine print to know where you might be at risk, what you should do. And lots of organizations just set up an email, just like individuals, and they just click. They don't read. And this cuts across. So what should we begin to do first and foremost?
So issues around cybersecurity, as in generally, especially at the national level, is a shared responsibility. Which means that government is expected, to do its own part by setting standards, regulatory and frameworks, and enforcing them. And also on the users, the end users, their responsibility also includes knowing their cybersecurity responsibility. And that has to do with awareness. Awareness is really very important, because if you're aware of the risk that you're exposed to and the vulnerability, that you have, then it helps you, know the types of measures to put into place, to ensure that you protect as in yourself. Then still talking about shared responsibility, the platform owners too, they are also, they also need to put in the necessary measures to ensure that they protect customers' emails, customers as in passwords, and also customers' data.
How do you respond to this? Yes, the platform owners are supposed to put in measures.
Yes.
But sometimes these are couched in very lengthy, winding, confusing notes, footnotes, where most people would not read anyway.
Yes.
They just go ahead and just say, look, click.
And that is why...
And just accept.
Yes. Yes.
Because sometimes there are also technical jargons that are used in those notes. You read them and you get more confused. So all they want is accept, and then you just click.
So platform owners, they will do what they're expected to do to maximize their profits, okay? And that is why it's a responsibility of the government and also the industry to help ensure that the necessary awareness is created. Awareness is very, very important, in ensuring that users of emails and other digital platforms, know exactly what their responsibility is. And if that is done, I can tell you that it will go a long way in helping to protect the users. And also, like I mentioned earlier, there is no silver bullet solution to this. Okay, it has to be approached from the strategic level and also at the operational level. So what do I mean by that? Government is expected, to ensure that relevant national cybersecurity regulatory frameworks, are being properly implemented. And as I speak with you, Nigeria has as one of the best regulatory frameworks as far as national cybersecurity is concerned. So I think what is important is, to improve on the enforcement, especially in the area of awareness. Then also at the operational level, training is also very important, because if you look at it, in Nigeria, we do not have enough cybersecurity experts. So training is very important to help ensure that we have a pool of cybersecurity experts, that will serve as a line of defense. Because just like Moses has mentioned, it's not about if you be attacked, it is when you're attacked. So when that day comes, you should have a ready pool of cybersecurity experts, to provide the right defenses to help with resilience.
Just a moment longer. There was a time, I believe, that NIDA used to put out some cautionary.
Yes.
Well, I haven't seen that lately. Yes. Has there been a lull in that, or maybe I've not been looking?
So, as my role is to supervise, or part of my role rather, is to supervise the computer emergency response and readiness team. This is a team designated by the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center, which is under the Office of the National Security Advisor, to help government, improve its cybersecurity posture. So part of this as a responsibility includes the provision of cyber threat intelligence and also to provide advisories. So these advisories we provide them, almost on a weekly basis. In fact, sometimes in a week we have up to 3-4 advisories, being put out in our various mass media platforms. So we have all these advisories, coming out almost, on a weekly basis. And of course, part of your responsibility too is to help coordinate, government's incident response. Yes. On the one side, as far as cybersecurity is concerned, you are supposed, to help with preparedness. But on the other side, you are also expected, to have your plans for cybersecurity as a resilience. And we are coordinating this, within the government sector.
Let's expand this thing of awareness. I mean, how do I protect myself? How do you protect yourself? You go on and he talked about insurance policies. It's like insurance as we used to know it in the old days, where the fine print is hidden somewhere. You only get to know about it when there has been some incident or the other. And it's the same thing with these digital platforms. Yes, they have measures in place, but the way it's so widespread, you would think that you would need to be a professional to understand it.
Okay, so there are two things here. Like we've been talking about awareness, and when you understand the rudiments, first of all, it now helps you when the more advanced things come. Why? You know where your own responsibility starts and it ends, and you know whose responsibility it is at the next level. So I'll talk about two things. Now, Dr. Bakari spoke about, typically these platforms should have policies, you have response plans and all of that. But the question is, beyond having it, do they actually test those plans? Do they actually test those? So, for instance, we have what we call the incident response plan or business continuity plan, where for a business continuity plan, it means where there's an incident, the business should at least run, at least critical services should be able to run. And then the incident response plan is, responding to the incident. They have the disaster recovery, which is now recovering from the disaster itself. But we see a lot of it in theory, but not in practice. I say that because it's set up, but do some of these organizations actually do periodic tests? You're meant to do, your tabletop exercises. You're meant to simulate incidents and see, okay, will it actually fail over? Probably simulate attacks. How would we, are we ready for things like this? So awareness, again, is at every level. So yes, being professional is not enough, but knowing what to do and when to do it professionally is more important than just being professional.
All right, in addition to the discussion in the studio, we also have a number of reports that speak to the issue. Let's get to see this report from Kaduna.
Mobile phones these days have become part of daily life. They contain information about users, including their financial records and personal data. Abdulaziz Ibrahim, a software developer trained in Khartoum, says hackers use different methods to gain access to people's data. He demonstrated how fake email messages are sent to potential victims.
Most of them, they will be sending you links or elite messages, okay, do something, or I'm contacting you from a social company or a bank as an agent. Malware attack is sending a script to your mobile device, be it a laptop or a phone. So maybe you might download an app from a registered Play Store, or maybe clicking a link that will redirect you to a site and you'll just see a pop-up, install this script. So once you install that script, now you have invited malware to your phone. So anything can happen.
I asked Abdulaziz how people can protect their data.
People should really take note of their password. Don't use a simple password like 1234 or your mobile contact or your date of birth. At least a strong password should be a mix of characters. When people are changing device from one device to another, so they should make sure that they format it. They erase all the data.
Muhammad Khalil is another computer expert based in Kaduna.
Just check every link before you click it. Don't just click link because of, and you don't have to click it immediately. Whichever link is sent to you and is asking you to click it now, I think you should wait. You should wait for you to authenticate, like check it, check the source.
The computer experts urged Nigerians to protect their data. They said it is a resource that some companies collect and sell.
All right, that introduces another angle to read now, and that some people collect and sell. And so the question is, what are my rights?
What are your rights as a user?
Yes, as a user.
Yes. Okay, so when you look at the internet model, the way it is created, it's created to collect data from you. Yes, you have to give your name, your phone number, your email, and it's the responsibility of these organizations or firms to protect that data. So whenever you give them this data, there are some data depending on where you are because we have different data protection rights. So you have rights like access, rights to edit it, and all of these rights. But I feel like those rights don't necessarily protect you from incidents like this. When I was listening to the video and he spoke about links, it's not just links, it has become more sophisticated, and we've seen incidents where people receive emails and even the button to delete an email or to block a sender is embedded with a malicious link. So you have to be careful with the way you delete emails or the way you block a sender, something as simple as that. So the threats are so many. I remember a story I like to tell. Margaret Thatcher, she got saved from an assassination, right? There was an attempted assassination, and then when she got back to her hotel, the assassinators sent her a message and they said, "You're lucky today. You have to be lucky every time, but we have to be lucky just once." And it's the same thing with threat actors and incidents. As an organization, as a country, as someone that is protecting something as important as data, you have to be lucky every time. And the sad part is that there are so many threat actors involved. You have you have petty thieves, you have organized crime groups, you have activists. The threat actors are so many, and you have to somehow juggle and protect yourself from all these incidents and try as much as possible to be lucky every single time, and understand that this data that you're keeping about people is their identities. You're collecting information from people that make up their digital identities, and this data has the power to ruin people's lives. So it's important for organizations to understand that, because yes, in paper we have this right, but it's also important that they understand how important it is, and we need to do better.
Sometimes you're told that what information you provide might be shared with a third party. Some give you an option to either go ahead or, but you see, it's never really clear. You don't know which third party, and so the thinking is, do I really need to supply this information? Sometimes what you're required to supply, you can't go beyond that stage unless you do supply. So how do I protect myself? How do I know what I'm getting into? Now there's an angle that you have just spoken about, where even to delete, some malware may have been embedded in it, or to block. And there are loads and loads of stuff out there once you just go on. And you've seen them, and some look authentic. Some sites look authentic, and they may be sites that you had perhaps visited in the past. So the question is, how do you protect yourself from all of this and be certain that you're not just clicking and getting yourself into trouble?
Okay, so a lot of people might not agree, but privacy in this day and time almost does not exist. Yes, it almost doesn't exist. Just like you mentioned, when you're sharing data, you also see that notification that this data can be shared with third parties. And most times when you see things like this, you're probably using a digital product that is free. You are the product, and that is why they have to share this data with third parties. Most of these third parties are advertisers. So let me use an example that I don't want to mention any particular company, but there are companies that have over 250 digital products. One maybe is for location, right? You're using their maps, and it's collecting all this data. It knows where you're going to. It has another product that knows all your contact details, who you're talking to. And about a decade ago, they had this policy in place where all data from all of their products, so imagine 250 of their products, imagine it in one profile. It's all on one single profile. So if you're watching a video on their platform, you have an email, it's all being profiled as one in their HQ. So really, you're the product, and it's sad that we have gotten to this place, but what you can do to protect yourself is that try as much as possible. If you don't need to share a data, if you're not going to randomly see a stranger and give an information to them, maybe you shouldn't share it, maybe you shouldn't post it, because again, we're in an interesting era where everybody wants to share something, everybody wants to share what's going on with their lives, and all of this little data, it might not make sense to somebody that is casually scrolling, but to somebody that wants to harm you, to someone who has a negative intent, these are really important data. Something as little as sharing your child's picture with a school uniform. Someone has seen the school your child is attending. Little things like that, they are data people that are collecting on the internet. So it's important that we're aware the internet is not safe. Just as in the real world, there are places that you won't go to, there are people that you won't talk to. The internet doesn't have that filter. So whatever you're sharing to the entire world, including those people.
So it takes us to another level. With the fintech companies, when you do transactions online, you save passwords, your bank statements, such things are in your email, and you're carrying out transactions. How well can you protect yourself with all of these happening? Because, is it a wise thing? Let me even put this straight. Is it a wise thing to save your passwords online? Because sometimes you see suggestions that, click and we'll remember this password. Is that a safe thing to do, really?
Well, like you rightly said, it's not a safe thing to do. And there are some ways in which this can be mitigated. For instance, if you have an email account with a dedicated password, the right practice in cybersecurity is that when you are logging into or creating accounts from different websites, social media platforms that you do not trust, you do not use that password for those accounts. The password dedicated to your email account should remain dedicated to your email account. Do not use those passwords for other accounts. Because when these cyber criminals eventually compromises your email or compromise that account, what they usually do, the next thing they go to your email. We have seen situations like this in so many platforms. For instance, let's just say it's the email that is being compromised. They start trying that password and a lot of things. You see, they get Netflix accounts, they get YouTube accounts, a lot of accounts that could call expensive costs.
Oh, really?
They get those accounts.
Now, this is an eye-opener, because for many people I know, it's that dedicated password they use it because it's so simple. You don't have to bother about remembering or getting into trouble forgetting. So you just use it across. That's it.
And it's a core principle for cyber threat actors. Hack one, you hack all.
True.
So it's very important. Personally, I've known this for a very long time. So the password I use for my email accounts is totally different from the password I use for other accounts. It's very important. So there's also the issue of people not remembering their password. So they want to use one particular password. But now you have certain functions in mobile devices, even laptops, that allows you to, create random passwords. And then when the password is created, it is saved in a password keychain. For those of us who use iPhones, it's there. For those of us who use Samsung, the feature is also there. So if you are using an untrusted website, for instance, you should not use your password, because the first thing you see, you put your email account, you put your email address, then you put password. And then where that data is going to is into another separate database in which the threat actors, just put them in place to, get records of all these things for diverse purposes. They could, use it to compromise you. They could sell this information online, I mean, personally, they've sold my information. I was applying for some things, in batches, and then I realized I started getting some email messages that I did not request for, pornographic content, and it keeps coming in its hundreds every day. So now that account, to me, it's a wasted account, because the more you try to block them, they just keep using different, they clone email accounts these days. A particular email account they could provide hundreds of clones. So if you block this one, that same email is sending you messages, but then you keep blocking, you cannot stop it eventually.
How come this is not well known out there? Because I can tell you that there's so many people who are using one password across all, platforms. And I'm thinking maybe after tonight, quite a number of people are going to be changing their passwords.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the awareness we're talking about. Now, for those who already have done this, what can they do? I mean, I know people out there are wondering, they have used my email password for just about everything. What do I do to change that now?
So for users, that have their emails as a compromised, I think what is very important is to see, how to address this, through the platform owners. I believe that, they have a channel where you can report, such incidents, okay? And they'll provide you with the necessary steps, involved in ensuring that you can actually, address, the situation. But, prevention is always, better than cure. And like it has been, as I mentioned, I think what is really very important is to try as much as possible, to adopt a multi-factor authentication. So as what that means is that you don't just rely on your Amazon password, okay? So you can rely on other level or other factors of authentication. For example, if you are doing a two-factor authentication, it's about using what you have, okay, which is maybe your phone, to receive OTPs, and also, using about what which is the Amazon password, just to help ensure that you have different levels of protection. Some can even go as high as 3-factor authentication, which includes what you are, okay? And what do I mean by that? Your fingerprint, your iris. Another alternative is to go passwordless. Yes, passwordless, because why so many accounts are being hacked is because these cyber criminals, or as we call them, threat actors, dump these passwords on the darknet. In fact, while some sell, some dump it as for free. So if you go on the darknet now, which is very easy for anybody, to access, you'll see thousands and thousands of passwords as dumped. So to ensure that you are well protected, it's better if you can go passwordless. And what do I mean by this? There are applications, called authenticators. Google has one, Microsoft has one, where if you need to log into your email, Amazon for example, you activate the authenticator on your phone or on your system to provide a one-time password for you, Amazon to use. So even if that one-time password is being hacked by chance, it can be reused again. So the best solution is just to see how to ensure that you only use applications that support passwordless authentication. And of course, like I keep telling people, issues around cybersecurity, it's all about risk management. Okay, you need to be able to weigh between the costs and also the benefits. For example, Roots, as I mentioned that many of these platforms, they allow you to provide they allow you access their service for free, but it's never free. because you are the Amazon product.
So you got to keep an eye out for all those free access.
Yes,
nothing really free.
Exactly. So you need to do a cost-benefit analysis. If the cost outweighs the as a benefit, then it's advisable that you desist, from such Amazon platforms. So it's really very, very important, to always ensure that you are on the preventive side. But like I mentioned earlier, it's not about if you will be attacked, it is when you are attacked. And that is why it's also important that you also have strategies for resilience. What do I mean by this? You need to have a plan to help ensure that if you're attacked, you can also recover.
What's so vulnerable about emails? Why are emails the point where these things occur for even bigger attacks? Why are emails susceptible to?
Okay, so I remember, there was a time where we didn't have emails. It was phone calls. And that was like the most rampant form of communication at the time. People did businesses over phone lines, and then we reached the point where you sent fax messages. But right now, when you look at the corporate landscape or the business landscape, I'm sure you've received a couple of emails today already. Yeah. So emails have become what you'd have gone to the post office to put in an envelope and sent, and it will take 3 days, 5 days. At the click of a button, it's gotten to the other end. And so transactions have become so speedy via emails, and every kind of transaction is being done. I'll give an instance. There's something called the man-in-the-middle attack. So, client is talking to, say, supplier, and this guy now hacks into the supplier's email, hijacks the correspondence, and then the client thinks he's still talking to the supplier, and it gets to the point of payment. He receives the payment, they don't get their products, and then maybe 2 weeks later, they now put a call and say, our products haven't come. And they're like, which products? We haven't even sealed the deal. But that guy has intercepted and sealed the deal. In the days of, say, fax, people used to find a way to do that. Then we saw where they tapped phone lines, back. So it's the same concept. It's just intercepting communication for malicious gains. And there's hardly any kind of communication you cannot do via email. So I'd give an instance. Years ago, this probably like 12 years ago, I know someone that needed his girlfriend to go for an interview, and he cloned the recruiter's email, sent to her. Now, the cloning was so perfect that it came from the email looking the same way. Even the signature you would see when the person sends the email, he did all of that. I don't know how that ended for her though, so before you'd have to forge letters because that's the primary and most effective way of communication. So emails have been, are really being intercepted right now because a whole lot is based on emails. Your banks would send you notifications. Now, you said something earlier when you said you don't have, or some people don't have passwords and all of that in their emails, but you do not know the meaningless information or seemingly meaningless information that a malicious actor can actually see and make meaning out of it. So don't take anything for granted even within your email architecture, because the most meaningless thing might just be the most meaningful thing for that malicious actor.
With bank statements, for instance, I'm still looking at this from financial institutions. They send you emails with everything and it's in there. And that also can be breached.
Oh yes. However, the usual or the best practice is they send you a statement, there's a PDF, but there's a code to decrypt that particular document. So it is there, but if you don't, so he was talking about different layers of authentication. So that's part of it. So yes, the document is there, but the question is, can it be Can you assess the document? Can you have access to the document? So that extra layer of security are some of the measures that are put into place. So even you, the user, if you don't have that decryption code or something, you cannot access that PDF, with the statement, even though it's in your email box. So yes, so for something like that, that's a best or usual practice right now.
Now let's look at the challenges and risks, and the biggest challenges Nigerian institutions face in securing email communications and infrastructure today. You see, you talked about all of this, working, to track down cyber criminals, and these things are getting easier today. Today we see individuals, they're able to hack into security systems, and it makes you wonder, but when you carry out business online, when you transact business online that requires payment, and even with the one-time password, also with fintech companies where you provide certain details, your card details, and authentication pins and all that, makes you wonder if there's no way those can be copied or kept and used in subsequent transactions. Is there a way out of this?
Back to the baseline of raising awareness and how it's important for businesses to know the importance of the data they are collecting. Just like everything he has said, an email is so important to our lives as individuals. It's almost a key to your digital identity. Almost everything starts from your email. So for instance, if I have access to your email address, it means I can reset your bank settings, request your bank to send a reset link. Because I have access to your email, your bank is going to believe that it is you, and they'll send that reset link. And not just for your bank, your online identity, your social media, and then I reset or log you out of your Facebook, your Instagram, and then I share malicious posts. It is a ripple effect. It's just an email, but there are so many things that can be done with just that email, and businesses need to understand how important it is. There was a time I used to gym at a particular hotel, and I was very upset when I saw printed copies of their hotel guests with their email addresses, and I was really upset. I had to share it with the management. I said, this is very wrong. You can't print. And I feel it's because businesses do not understand how important it is. Someone comes to your organization, even if I'm ordering a food or I'm making payments for outfits online, you need to understand the importance of whatever information I am giving you. And then they also need to be held accountable. Businesses need to be held accountable. For instance, you have a breach. This for the companies that are digital. If you have a breach, there needs to be an investigation to know if you were careless in the first place. Yes, we have the framework, right, for data protection, but then it also needs to be enforced, and then there needs to be repercussions. Businesses need to be better.
What risks are in this scenario? People walk into cyber cafes, emails, they open their emails in some hotel, in some, using multiple devices to open their emails, transact businesses. From what we're seeing, you live in your digital footprints everywhere. How safe are those practices? You go and you open your email in some commercial center. Yes, they say you close it and that's it. Is that safe?
Well, no, it is not safe. I think there's a simple question answer to that. It is totally not safe. When you go everywhere and you just log in your email address, put your password, you may think you have logged out. But then again, in cybersecurity, there is what we call spywares. You understand? These are malicious softwares that is downloaded into a system, probably by malicious actors, or even you, because sometimes the major cause of these cyber incidents is human error, which is associated with negligence. So you go to a free website, you download a movie, you download free Microsoft Word, and then those malware just get infested into your system. So when these individuals go into, let's just say, cyber cafes, in which is already been compromised by threat actors, and then you put your information there, your email and password, you're done, you didn't save the password, you just logged out. You are going, you think you are safe, but you are not, because it could have been infiltrated by spywares. And when this is done, it takes record of your email address, it takes record of your password, it literally takes record of everything you did within that time frame. And then when you leave, you think it's all good, but it's not. You've already been compromised.
So the best thing is to restrict all these to just your own device.
Yes. I really don't even advise anybody to use public Wi-Fi, as you said. Right. There's also the issue of man-in-the-middle attack.
Yeah, but you see, public Wi-Fi, airports, everywhere.
It's not safe. It's not safe.
And if you have to use them, for instance, sometimes I understand you can't be stranded when traveling. You should beware of what activities you carry out on your phone. For instance, you can't make a transaction or log into sensitive password when you're connected to a public Wi-Fi. Or if you need to send a message to certain people, you shouldn't do that with public Wi-Fi.
Thanks for staying with us, and this is a segment where the phone lines are open and you can join in the conversation in the studio. The numbers to call will be on your screen. You can take advantage of those numbers, and as we say every Tuesday, if you're calling in and your call gets through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we also advise that you do not spend too much time on greetings. Just a simple hello would do. And one way to know your call has been passed through to the studio is you see your name appear on screen. That tells you that your call is through to the studio. So just go ahead and keep such comments and questions as short as possible so that others can also get on the platform. Whatever issues you raise, our guests here will take on those issues and explain them and answer them in detail. But for now, we start off with another of our reports, this one from Oka.
Nigerian's rank of 34th globally in data breaches, it has placed Nigeria among countries facing significant exposure to phishing, email compromise, and data breaches. These analysts attribute to low awareness, unemployment, and the love for quick money. It also points to Nigeria's large youth population as the country's most significant asset in fighting cybercrime.
Any virus that attack an electronic device, the solution to curbing that issue is also resident with the person that designed that virus. So human capital, those people today that are causing us pain can become the network defenders. These guys can be then debriefed of the criminality, and then they become very useful too to helping us.
They work with security operatives like EFCC, DSS, with the knowledge they already have about the internet and how things work there. It will help Nigeria solve lots of security problems.
Still to be very intelligent for you to do such cybercrime. So I think the government should employ them. The reason why they are doing this is because of money. You and I know, money. And the government cannot pay them that much.
So come out, help teachers, lecturers to educate younger ones on how to know everything about this cybercrime, how to hack system, and put it into good use so that we'll have a better country.
Analysts said Nigeria has the human capacity to build a hub for cybersecurity by creating structures and opportunity for the teeming youth.
Right, back to the studio here. One of the questions, of course, would be how can those who are unable to afford security, enterprise security, protect themselves, particularly small agencies, SMEs. How can they? Well, the big companies can outsource their security matters to established and companies, but the smaller players can't do that. Small agencies and individuals.
Okay, so I'll start by saying that cybersecurity is actually a very expensive as an venture, but that does not mean that implemented measures, cannot be done at a lower level. Like we've all alluded to, I think what is really very important is to ensure that these target entities, have the right awareness. So it is very important for smaller organizations to invest a lot in awareness, and awareness even starts with having a security policy. Okay, a security policy that has been cascaded, from the national cybersecurity frameworks. So it's important that smaller organizations take the issue of having policies, seriously. So within the policies, they cannot have a strategy for creating awareness and also training their staff. Not everything in cybersecurity actually requires you investing so much in. And if you look at many of the Amazon hackers, they don't really invest so much in cybersecurity training. Neither do they really invest so much, in hacking tools. The truth is that many of these tools, they are available, free on the internet. And with the emergence of artificial intelligence, it has even lowered the bar for threat actors, or what is generally referred to as, cyber criminals. In fact, as it is, with artificial intelligence, you can create an effective phishing email in seconds. Something that used to take, maybe hours or a day in those days. With AI, you can actually, create such, attacks within some as a minute. So the same way threat actors have access, to free tools. It's the same way also. People that want to protect themselves also have access to tools, to free tools on the internet.
The phones are already on. We have our first caller tonight, Sagir calling in from Bauchi. Hello, Sagir. Go ahead. Sagir from Bauchi. Hello. Good evening. Yes, go ahead, Sagir. Yes, Sagir, go ahead with your question. Well, I'll say this again. Once your name appears on screen, it means your call has been passed through. So just go ahead. So we hope Sagir can call back. And for others who are calling in the same way, once your call gets through to the studio, you see your name on screen, and once you see that, you're on. Turn down the volume of your TV set. There wouldn't be the echo. We could hear all that hurlback from Sagir's TV. Okay, back here in the studio. Okay, another caller. We have another caller, Soji, is it? Soji from Abuja. Hello, Soji.
Okay, so my name is Soji from Abuja. I want to ask, there's a project that's ongoing at the moment with the Nigerian Identity Management Commission. It's a project sponsored by the World Bank, IT body. It has to do with data collection and, of course, creating digital identity for Nigerians. Of course, we know how difficult and tough and complex it was as security needs, especially what's going on in Africa at the moment. So, what do you think the federal government and the federal government see to also build a more robust system for Nigerians, because the government is sponsored by World Bank, and how do you be confident in having the sponsored by World Bank for Nigerians? Because of course, there are different parties access to wherever data has been captured. So what kind of system government and other key stakeholders in the identity landscape and data landscape of Nigeria to protect Nigeria, also build our own local data centers and prevent people from having access to some of this information at free will. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much for that question. I may not be competent enough, to speak on behalf of Amazon NIMC. Well, what I can say is that government is doing a lot in helping Nigeria improve its cybersecurity posture. So one thing that is also very important to know that national cybersecurity is implemented in a federated manner, which means that you have different government organizations implementing different aspects of cybersecurity, but with a common focus. And at the helm of the coordination, you have the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center under the Office of the National Security Advisor. And under NCCC, you have the likes of NIDDA that has been designated as the Computer Emergency Response and Readiness Team for government organization. You also have the likes of Nigerian Data Protection as a commission to also help manage issues around data as in protection and as in privacy. So we are all working together at different levels. Like I mentioned earlier, at the strategic level, we've ensured that the necessary frameworks at the national level are in place. And to also attest to the fact that Nigeria has one of the best cybersecurity frameworks in the world is if you look at the Global Cybersecurity Index, which has about 5 pillars. Under the policy pillar, you see that Nigeria scored, I think, about 19.52 over 20, which is about 100%. So which shows that in terms of the relevant framework, we have everything, that it takes. Then also at the operational level, government is doing a lot. I can speak for NIDDA. I can tell you that we've conducted trainings, for thousands and thousands of Nigerians. We've provided physical training. We've also provided online training on cybersecurity in collaboration with online e-learning providers, just to help ensure that we have the necessary pool of cybersecurity experts, to help, protect the country. Then also in terms of infrastructure, the government has done a lot, by helping to ensure that we also encourage the local cybersecurity industry to also provide tools that can be accessible, to either individuals or MSMEs, to help ensure that they can also protect themselves. Then also in the area of data sovereignty, because it's really very important that for effective national cybersecurity, we must also pay attention to data and sovereignty. So data sovereignty is all about ensuring that you have both physical and also legal control on your national data. And the government has done a lot, especially NIDDA, in helping to ensure that we encourage local data centers, to build more infrastructure that can help ensure that our data nationally, are being protected.
Okay, we have another call from Gombe. The caller can just give you a name and. Yes, go right ahead. The caller from Gombe. Yes, hello. Yes, go.
My question is that I normally do business with many companies, so I need to know many signs that I can get together with the money with that, or somebody wanted to do. That's my question. Thank you.
Sorry, that wasn't very clear. You do business with a number of companies. You want to know what exactly? We didn't get that. That wasn't very clear. Could you repeat your question? Oh, well, we didn't quite get that except if anyone did. I didn't.
That was very fast.
Unfortunately. Yes, you have a good framework in place. But there are still concerns, aren't there? Data, biometrics are still flying around in this country. Not once, I mean, the harmonization was supposed to have taken place. That hasn't, as far as we know. There are still multiple agencies keeping data, biometrics of Nigerians. How safe is that?
Okay, so the best thing to do is to do it in a concerted manner. It's good we have different agencies. So he spoke about the NCCC. The police has their own cybersecurity center too. Same with certain other agencies. Great idea. However, we need to come to a point of convergence. And until we come to that point of convergence, if we don't work towards convergence, then that means we cannot even harmonize data. So, and it makes it quicker. We're in an era where online security affects offline security and vice versa. You need to get information on person A, person B, or person C. And maybe someone has 70% of this kind of database, another person has 15% of that database. And maybe the guy with the 15% wants some information that he probably has to request from, the guy with the 75%. But if there's a concerted pool, yes, of course, there'll be different levels of accessibility. But with the concerted pool of data, I think it makes it even better. And that's why we need to leverage on, like he spoke about the response team, which is one of the things he manages. The idea of that is that even as an organization, I should be able to plug into their feeds. So they're telling us, these are the recent attacks, in this period of time. And if I even witness anyone or experience anyone, I should be able to update the sets to say, we have witnessed this, so that they can update their own database of cyber threats too, and then to be beneficial to everybody.
Okay, it looks like Sagir, who called in earlier, is back on the line from Bauchi. Hello, Sagir. If you're there, go ahead. Sagir, are you back? Go ahead. All right, go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you. Please, I have a question. Can someone use contact to advocate to put outward into his own companies? Because even my drink, the server attached, and I found over 500 time from my bank, which they have the password of my email address already. Now that I want to server.
Yeah, did you get the... Sagir, could you repeat the question? Sagir, are you there? Oh dear. Sagir.
Can somebody put their application into his email address so that no one can ask them?
I think it's talking about two-factor
authentication on your email.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, you can. So there are different things that can happen. So, for instance, if someone is trying to log into my email from, say, some remote device, apart from the fact that I'll get a notification, I have to authorize it. I have to authorize it. If I do not authorize it from my end, from my device, or as we had spoken, you have authenticators. If I don't authenticate it from my end, it wouldn't. They won't be able to log in. So if he's having issues, then you should probably go and activate that security feature. Google, for instance, will tell you maybe you log in another device and you see, let's say, 23, and it would flash on my phone, and I would have to press the same number that is displaying on the device that is trying to log in. So that means I am authorizing the login, And when I do that, then the person can log in. If I didn't request for that, when I see a pop-up like that, then I know that someone is trying to maliciously log into my email, so I wouldn't give access.
Okay. Now let's get this call through from James, calling in from Abuja. Hello, James. Go ahead, James.
Okay, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Before now, we were told that every website that has an S in the name, like HTTPS, just means that the website is secure. But these days, we have having the same name, HTTPS, and then there are phone websites. How can we differentiate genuine websites from good fake ones?
Okay. Great question.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Lots of people have been worried about that.
So as technology is progressing, so are the kinds of attacks that are being launched as well. So true that a while back we would tell people that do not click on a link without the S, do not click on links that are not secure or links that do not have the padlock. But then the attacks these days have become very advanced for us to judge by just that. There are links where you would see that it's secure, but then it's not secure for you to click. So there are just a few things that you would have to ask yourself. You have to stop and think before you take any action, before you click on any link. So if someone sends you a link and it needs to be clicked immediately, then maybe you shouldn't click on that link. If someone sends you a link and it's suspicious, then maybe you shouldn't click on it. And these days it has even gone beyond links. There have been cases where it's blurry pictures on WhatsApp and, you know, curiosity. It's social engineering. They are taking advantage of you being human, because we're curious as human beings, right? So they send you a blurry picture and then you click on it and then you're downloading a malicious software. Or there are cases, in fact, that I've seen in recent times where someone's iPhone got stolen and then they activated they activated that their phone had been missing, and then I don't use an Apple product, but then there's a number you attach for after notifying Apple that your phone has been missing, and then they attach the phone number, and then the people who stole the number kept sending links to that particular number saying that click here to find your phone, and someone who is desperate will want to click on that link. So these people take advantage of human emotions like fear, like you're in a desperate situation, so you'd want to click on that link because you want to find your phone. But the person had to stop and think. The person thought, Apple doesn't have this number, it's a new number, and yeah.
All right. So Musa from Kebbi on the line. Hello, Musa. Hello, Musa.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Go ahead. Yeah, go on. Go ahead, Musa, with your question or comment. All right. Now you have situations where even with agencies, particularly government agencies and their websites, and this has happened quite a number of times, and people are getting really skeptical about clicking on them to say, well, what is secure, not secure, and you go and the next thing you get a message is, this site is not secure. You have to go back. What's happening here? These are agencies of government who are supposed to have secure websites. So one is wondering, Do you begin to suspect everything now? Or how? That's one other side. And then the question of receiving messages to update. How do people tell which one is real and which is just encouraging you to go and download some malicious software into your device?
Well, speaking of agencies in which the site are not secured,
yes,
that boils down to poor cybersecurity architecture.
Okay, let's take this call, see if we can, and then we'll come back to that. Stephen calling in from Delta. Stephen from Delta, go ahead. All right, I think we'll just go ahead, please.
Okay, like I said, it boils down to poor cybersecurity architecture, because as we've said throughout this program, if there's one word that has been coherent, is awareness. And you find out that a lot of government agencies or even private organizations are not really aware of the importance of cybersecurity. So probably the funds for those sites to be secured may have been allocated, but they don't just see the necessity. Because we have this notion, not just in Nigeria, globally, that if something works, don't spoil it. If it works, just leave it alone. So that's how they tend to, become, what's the word? Become, somebody help me. They become vulnerable to these attacks. Now, when we talk about updates, we have the software updates as it relates to mobile phones or computer or application, as the case may be. You may get messages, but if you want to update any software, the ideal thing to do is to go to the Play Store, the App Store, whichever operating system you use to do your updates. If it's the laptop, the same applies. Now, a lot of organizations do not do this. Like I said, if something is not broken, don't touch it. I'll give us an example of the NHS attack, cyber attack in 2015. They're in the UK that claimed a lot of systems. In the UK, they have a centralized healthcare system that the government pays for everything. So citizens and permanent residents in the country do not have to pay for healthcare. So those systems were attacked. Now what happened? They were using an outdated software. That was Windows 7 software. Imagine using Windows 7 in 2015. So because it was working, they didn't see the need to update it. And you can be certain that Windows would have been sending them updates, update your system, but they didn't. And then it was subject to a ransomware attack. And it didn't just affect systems in the UK, it affected systems globally in Asia, in the US, globally. So it is not just okay to just see an update and refuse to do it, probably because you feel the data required is too much. It's necessary because these individuals, companies or these software providers may have seen vulnerabilities in such systems, and then they fix those bugs, and then they send you the update so that you can enjoy from the latest patch of update.
Right.
So it's quite necessary to always update, and if you are scared of whether or not the message for update is coming from a legitimate source, then rest assured you can just go to the provider and see it. Okay. You see this software needs to be updated, this operating system needs to be updated, and then you just update it.
All right. We have a call coming through from Mina, Niger State. Caller from Mina. Hello, are you still there? Well, I don't think that call is good.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Calling from Niger.
Okay.
So it's been a long conversation. So here is just my contribution.
cybersecurity as evolved and has left protecting systems to protect lives. What do I mean? Cybersecurity, we've seen people who died from incidents of cyber attacks. We've seen people lives being lost. So it's very critical that we make cybersecurity awareness very, very important. Now, in case, of course, that's been done cut across especially from, like one of the speakers earlier said, people from the primary secondary school. And nobody could say, a good man is a inheritance for his children's children. I think cybersecurity culture should be something that should be left, that should be incorporated in part of the things we discuss. Even when we go to church, when we go to mosque, they should talk about cybersecurity because we've seen people who lost their entire livelihood after retirement to cyber crimes, to cyber incidents. Then we should also encourage a lot of movies, like we used to see movies where they say, if you do fetish thing, you can get into trouble, you can die. If you see movies that discourages cyber crime and encourages cyber safety, I think this awareness can really go a long way beyond, what we would like. The chairman for Session chapter, where Abuja chapter earlier said, it's something that is awareness can never be emphasized. In fact, it can be done every day, like day in day. I was talking about cyber security awareness. Thank you very much. My name is my Bushra. I'm also a cyber security specialist. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Great mind from Mina. Well, Francis, comments there about not pulling back at all in terms of awareness. But you see, this what we're talking about tonight, the 200,000 plus breaches that have been recorded. What does this do to public trust in the system and to Nigeria, of course? And the worry here is about security and the general national security. I mean, most people are at their wits' end with what's going on now regarding the insecurity in the land, and with these breaches, there's something to worry about. I mean, it's known all over the place that individuals now can hack into. In fact, there's a celebrated case going on of allegations of an individual having hacked or cut into the telephone conversation of the NSA himself.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you. That's a concern. And like we've all alluded to, awareness is really very important. And we are doing that, as government, to help ensure that the citizens are aware of their roles and responsibility. Okay, just like I mentioned earlier, NIDDA has invested a lot in training. We've also tried as much as possible, to provide awareness through our flagship TV program, called NIDDA Impact, which airs on notable TV stations, including NTA, to provide the necessary awareness on cybersecurity and how they can protect themselves. Then also talking about catching them young, we are collaborating with the Ministry of Education, to help ensure that cyber safety online, cybersecurity is also part of basic education as in curriculum, just to ensure that it is made inherent, right from early ages, to help ensure that as Nigerians, can effectively, protect themselves. So awareness is something that is continuous. Awareness is not a one-time thing. Cybersecurity is not a destination. Cybersecurity is a journey. And with each emerging as a threat, we must invest in continuous improvement, and that is what the government has been doing all the while. Yes, attacks will always come, no doubt about it. And like I mentioned earlier, it's a good sign that Nigeria is really advancing as far as its digital economy is concerned. Because if you look at 10, 15 years ago, we're not talking about this because there was really nothing as an attack. So now that we're having all these systems, we're having more adoption, of online digitals and platforms. We have over 160 million Nigerians on the internet. You should expect such to happen, and that is why it is very important for there to be effective and collaboration. It's not just about as in the government. There must be effective collaboration between government, the industry, the media, okay? Civil society for accountability, academia, because we also need research, from the academia on emerging threats and also controls to be put in place. And also our international partners, because they are the originators of most of this digital platforms. So that effective collaboration should be there, because if you look at cybersecurity, it is borderless, it is sectorless, but it affects every one of us the same way. And as such, it requires a collective solution as in today. So while government is trying its best, it will be something that has to be done continuously. The awareness is being carried out, and we'll still continue to ensure that as Nigerians are aware of their responsibility and also the risks they are exposed to as far as the cyberspace is concerned.
Well, speaking of the academia and research, I think it was one of the few calls we had through where the caller was talking about growing indigenous platforms so that we reduce to the barest minimum the reliance on foreign providers. What do you say to that?
Okay, so we actually have indigenous platforms, indigenous trainers, but don't forget that the rate at which cybersecurity is growing, we can barely even keep up. When you look at the statistics, I think in America, for instance, ISC2 did a research some time ago, and there were about 3.5 million jobs that were not filled, and it's cascading because we're having more opportunities right now, and then needs are different. So one size doesn't fit all. The kind of training I need at that time could be maybe delivered locally, and there are some trainings that at this time may not be delivered locally. But yes, we have a lot of indigenous platforms, which of course we cannot mention, here, but you can probably use a search engine or something. But we have a lot of indigenous training going on, both government and non-government organizations and individuals. So yes, so the thing again, and this what awareness is part of, is actually asking the right questions and looking in the right places. When you do, you'd get the right answers.
If you had the ear of the regulator today, what policies would you push for and say, look, this is the way to go, even as we seek solutions to how we can bring to the minimum such breaches?
So I would say that we need to work closely with the private sectors, especially because when you look at our critical infrastructure, most of the providers are in the private sector, and they need to understand that the services that they provide are very important and critical to our country's economy. And if, for instance, they get breached, it's a ripple effect. For instance, let's say our energy sector gets breached, it's not just going to impact the energy sector, it's going to impact the banking sector, it's probably going to get to water, and that's how cybersecurity works. And that's why even when we spoke earlier about it happening to individuals, it's also a ripple effect. And I think there also needs to be a push for policies around child online protection, because a lot of times we leave that out and it's becoming a serious issue, because most of the cyber crimes we see on children, most of it translates into actual crimes. So we need to protect our children. We need to have policies in place that protect them. They are minors and they need to be protected online as well.
You know that some countries are putting in restrictions for underage users, and it doesn't look as if are we looking in that direction here? Because you see, a lot of kids have access to all of this, and most of the time unsupervised, and they just go in there, and things are happening.
So it's also important, just like Dr. Bakari mentioned, we need to work with the Ministry of Education as well. Children need to know from a very young age. If we're giving them access to the internet, we need to teach them how to protect themselves on the internet, how to protect themselves from predators. And how do predators sound? How will a predator, if we're teaching adults how to predict who a scammer is and what are the tactics a scammer uses, then that's the least we owe our children.
Well, Dr. Bakari has described Nigeria's cybersecurity framework as robust, one of the best in the world. However, having the framework is one thing. Let's look at the area of enforcement. You raised concerns about that we need to do much more than has been done now in the area of enforcement. And unfortunately, we lost the links with the head of legal services of the Nigeria Data Protection Commission. We lost that link because this was something we had wanted to put across to him. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yes, as robust as the frameworks are, as it has to do with cybersecurity, data protection, and what have you, enforcement is a very important factor in ensuring that this is actually a reality. And how do we achieve this enforcement? It largely has to do with awareness and also inter-agency collaborations. As he mentioned that some of these agencies have different data. Some have 75%, some have 15%, but there is no form of integration. I feel if these agencies, law enforcement agencies come together to ensure these enforcement by bringing together resources, I feel the robust framework should be enough to tackle cybercrime.
Well, let's look at the future. Oh, except you wanted to respond to what he has just raised here.
Okay, so I think I'll speak to what Ruth, as I mentioned, in terms of advice of other framework, the government can also put into place. And she talked about something on child online protection.
Yes.
So I want to let you know that, there's a bill already with the National Assembly on child online access protection. So, in fact, that goes beyond just having a subsidiary as a regulation. It will come as a full legal as a framework, come as an act, to help ensure that strategy, measures are in place, to protect as minors whenever they are online. Then also, in terms of the implementation, of the extant frameworks, on national cybersecurity, yes. Government is doing a lot, but like they say, the biggest room in the world is room for improvement. And that is why we are trying as much as possible, to improve, collaboration, especially with the industry, to help see how this framework, can be effectively enforced. And when I talk about enforcement, I'm not just referring to using the as a stick approach. It has to be, the stick and carrot approach, which means that part of the strategy should also include intensified engagement, providing training, providing subsidy, as in, for example, on cybersecurity as in tools. So I believe as once we have this kind of, intensified collaboration, it will help ensure that the extant frameworks, don't just remain as extant frameworks, but they are implementable, they are enforceable, and we can also, track the maximum performance. But like I keep saying, government is doing a lot. It's a work in progress, and eventually we will continue to try as much as possible to address, because I don't want to use, I don't want to say that, we will completely address it, because cyber threats keep emerging. But we'll try as much as possible to keep pace by ensuring that the necessary measures are in place to protect Nigerian citizens. Then also, I think she also mentioned issues around critical national information infrastructure. So I also want to provide you information on that. Like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to national cybersecurity, the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center is in charge of coordination, and it's oversighted by the Office of the National Security Advisor. So they currently have a framework on critical national information infrastructure protection. And there's a framework to help ensure that critical national information infrastructure within Nigeria are identified, the regulators are identified, the operators are also identified, and strategies are put into place to help identify risks that can befall this infrastructure and the necessary protection as measures for the critical national information infrastructure. So I thought it's very important that I also put that as in there so that we know that this framework doesn't exist.
Let me borrow the words, I think it was you who said there is really, looking at it, no privacy in the internet. And that's just it, because now in the era of AI, everything about you is out there. As long as you use this, you're leaving your footprints everywhere. And speaking of the role of advertisers too, and what we click on sites we go to that provide free services, they're able to tell just what you want. You receive messages, many times you receive messages suggesting that from your history, this is what would interest you, and advertisers are taking advantage of those. However, other people say there should be something in place not to let them do that.
Yeah.
Yes, what do you think about that?
So I like that you mentioned earlier how easily we accept when these services are offered to us, the terms of use and the privacy policies, and then we accept. That's a legal binding document. So you can't really complain once you accept, because when you take it to the court recognizes that acceptance, the fact that you accept. And sometimes they make it very long and bulky with jargons because they know a lot of people will not read it. So it's hard really, but if you don't have to use a service, then don't use it. I know of certain editing platforms that people have refused to use because within their terms of use and their updated privacy policy, they said they had the right to use whatever image you're editing on their application. And then a lot of people started migrating to a different platform. So we need to see more of actions like that. And if you don't read the terms of service or the privacy policy, then you won't even know what you're giving them access to. It boils down to little things as giving access to your microphone, right? We like ease, we like comfort, so we connect our lives so much to the internet. So because I feel lazy to get off my bed and put off the lights, it's easier to connect to Siri or to my Google Assistant and say
use your voice prompt.
And then when we give access, we don't turn it off. And there have been instances where this has been used against people in court because you gave access to your microphone and you probably were speaking and then admitted to a crime. That can be used against you in court, because again, these companies, they can't go against the country. Else, if they can't offer their services in that country, then it's a big problem. So in the end, that can be used against you. So we just need to be very careful, really.
Caution is the watchword. As we prepare to wind down, what are your final thoughts here, Joseph, as we wind down?
Well, my final thought is cybersecurity is everybody's business. It's the government business, it's organizational business. As personal individuals, it's also a business. And each and every one of us in our different organizations, as big businesses, SMEs, government institutions, should endeavor to ensure that we adhere to cybersecurity principles to ensure that we are safe, as cybersecurity today is very important in ensuring safety, and it's also a matter of national security in today's economy.
Right, Moses?
Okay, so I'll speak to the frameworks. I believe the way it can work is where there's a relationship which I think exists between the businesses and the government. Now, how do we know if those frameworks will be viable? It's simple. Encourage businesses to try to start, you could do a test phase, adopt these frameworks, run it for a while. You know, you could, within the private sector, certain organizations can adopt it, even within the government sector, run it for a while. That way we can see where there are loopholes or where there are places for improvement and what really works. So it's just like putting controls in cybersecurity. So for instance, even in your infrastructure, when you put controls, one size doesn't fit all. And sometimes you think a control you have put is the best control at the time, but it's evolving. That control today might be the vulnerability tomorrow. So again, cybersecurity is dynamic, and I think we need to understand that it's dynamic, it's always changing. It's not like a seal that is, or like a tattoo. And again, we want to see more collaboration between business and government. Thank you.
Okay, for you?
I'll just say that people need to be aware that their data is very important, and there are people that will go to any level to get information or data about themselves. I mean, I recently saw a CV in the dark web of people offering their services and how they could be offered for, you know, really terrible things, I would say. And it's easier to do these things now because they can be offered as a service. So gone are the days that if I need to burgle a door, I need to be there physically to do it myself. These days it can be launched in bulk and it can be rented, it can be sold on the dark web. So people need to be aware that it's so easy to get to them, and then be careful. Even on social media, I know it's easy to get carried away, but then if you won't see a random stranger and tell them, I took my child to this school, then you probably, the internet doesn't need that information really. A lot of the things can be controlled from our own end.
We end with you.
So thank you, Emma, once again for the opportunity. Like I mentioned earlier, cybersecurity is not a destination. Rather, it is a journey. And what that means is that we must continue to engage in continuous improvement. Again, you know, cybersecurity, especially at a national level, is a shared responsibility. Government, you know, must continue to implement effective cybersecurity standards and other frameworks. Also, the industry is expected to come up with innovations, you know, around cybersecurity, and also advise government, you know, on better ways or newer ways of implementing measures as far as cybersecurity is concerned. That also the academia, it's very important that they continue to engage in research on emerging as in threat, research on emerging solutions. And also the media has its own role as in to play, especially in the area of awareness. And I'm really very happy that you know, we are achieving that, especially with this as in program. Then also the CSOs, okay, they also need to hold entities involved. And when I say CSO, I'm referring to, you know, the civil society organizations. They must help ensure that they hold entities accountable as far as national, you know, cybersecurity implementation is concerned. And also the international community is also very important, you know, because they provide us with most of this, you know, platforms, digital platforms, you know, that we access, that makes us susceptible, you know, to cyber attacks. Then finally, as a Nigerians, I would say that before you sleep, I would advise that that your simple password, ensure that you change it. Also ensure that you improve on your password authentication by implementing multi-factor authentication, and ensure that you do not use the same password across all your applications.
Great.
Thank you.
Lots of passwords, I imagine, will be changed tonight. So thank you so very much, Dr. Ayodele Bakari, Assistant Director, Cybersecurity Department, National Information Technology Development Agency, NIDA. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moses Gabriel Omalai, Cybersecurity Professional. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And Ruth Sambok, Digital Rights Advocate. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you also, Joseph Gideon Ikojo, cybersecurity expert. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thanks to you for staying with us this far. We have to leave this conversation here. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober.